What is up, YouTube? My name is Trinity, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. Welcome to our last day of Spooktober, and happy Halloween. I am so excited that we have finally gotten to this point. It has taken a lot of work. It is like midnight on October 30th, but I really wanted to get this done for you guys because, like I was saying in the last video, this is the first Spooktober that I've gotten so far, made so many videos, and actually completed it. So I wanted to make sure I saw it through to the very end. Today we are going to be talking about the Smurl family haunting, the Warren case that inspired The Conjuring Last Rites, which is the last Conjuring universe movie, as well as one of, but not the last, investigation that the Warrens took on. In 1973, Jack and Janet Smurl, along with their two daughters, were forced to move from their home in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania due to Hurricane Agnes that had completely decimated their home and surrounding areas. They relocated to a town called West Pittston, where Jack's mother and father owned a duplex, and they moved into the available unit there. The house was on the rougher side. It definitely needed some renovations, a fresh coat of paint, but the family was overall very happy to be there, and it seemed to be a very positive change for them. Their two daughters, Heather and Dawn, were excelling in school. Jack had just gotten a promotion, and the entire family was extremely happy to just be closer to Jack's parents. They were also very active in their communities, along with just getting involved with youth groups and stuff like that. They were also active parts of their church, going to church every Sunday as they were devout Catholics. And for over a year of living in the duplex unit, things were very happy. Things looked very positive for the family. But then little things here and there started to happen. Early in 1974, Jack and Janet noticed a huge stain on the brand new carpet that they had installed in the house. It looked like some sort of grease or oil stain, and they got to work and they got it out. The carpet looked brand new. However, a couple days later, in the exact same spot, the stain returned. And this would continue happening over and over again. And it wasn't quite scaring them, it was just a little strange. And eventually they got so frustrated that they threw out the entire carpet and then decided to replace it, and the stain never came back to this new carpet. Now, normally these hauntings seem to be very slow burns, like how they're depicted in the movies. However, this demon was right out the gate very aggressive, because a couple days after they had finally solved this stain issue, Jack was watching a movie and the TV exploded. There was no explanation for why this TV would have exploded. It just did, and obviously it scared the shit out of him. But this wasn't the only device in their house that just randomly exploded or caught fire. Allegedly, they had just bought a brand new electric stove and it randomly caught fire, and a new car that Jack had just bought also had some sort of faulty wiring and caught fire. Repairs on the house were still going on, and also little things in the house like a pipe leaking that could have taken a few minutes to fix began taking hours or even days, and sometimes the issue would not even be fixed after they'd worked on it for so long. They also redid the bathroom, and they put down new tile and put in new sinks, and it looked really good. But one night, Jack and Janet went to bed, and then they woke up and the porcelain of the sink was cracked, and there were scratches all over the tiles, and there was no explanation for it. It looked like there was a wild animal that was trapped in there and demolished the place, essentially. The girls would wake up screaming and run to their parents' room saying that there were people in their room, but when the parents checked, obviously there was nothing in there. Now, while all of this is going on, I don't know why, but they just kind of learned to live with it. They stayed in the house for a very long time while all of this was happening. 3 years after all of these events would begin, Janet would give birth to twin girls, Shannon and Karen, and them being brought into the house seemed to escalate things even more. Now they started hearing footsteps running around the home. They would hear disembodied voices, things in the walls. There would be horrific smells of rot and decay that would permeate the entire house, but they were never able to find out what the source was because it would dissipate as soon as it began. Sometimes the walls would shake. I know just saying, why don't you move, in any sort of situation, not just like a ghost story, is never as easy as it sounds. You don't know what people's financial situations are like, but like, oh my God, if even half of that was happening to me, I don't care if I have to be homeless or live out of a car or live in my nana's basement. Maybe not the basement. I think there's a demon down there too. Now, Janet, being a stay-at-home mom, early on, she was experiencing the brunt of these activities because, Jack was at work and the girls were often at school. The babies probably didn't understand what was happening, I would imagine. She said the worst experiences were when she would have to go down to the basement in order to do laundry, and she would sometimes hear something calling her name down there. She never felt alone. She always felt another presence, but that was the worst part. These strange activities also weren't limited to their side of the duplex. Jack's parents lived on the other side, and they said that they would sometimes hear what sounded like Jack and Janet arguing with each other, which isn't out of the ordinary for a married couple. However, it was violent and abusive language that they didn't use. And then they would go ask Jack and Janet about it, and they were like, we weren't even fighting. We weren't even talking, really, at least not loud enough to be heard. Not long after this alleged argument, Janet said that while in the kitchen, a 6-foot black figure appeared in front of her. And even though there were no features on a face, it just stared into her for a moment. And then it dematerialized, and apparently it went over to the other side of the duplex and also approached Jack's mom. So both of them saw the exact same thing, and apparently this thing showing itself to them was an indication that it was becoming more powerful. And even though it doesn't seem possible at this point, the activity would crank up even more notches. Janet would begin being dragged violently from her bed. Jack would become paralyzed and overwhelmed with the rotting stench that wouldn't go away. Their German Shepherd was thrown against a wall. Now let me tell you right fucking now. You can haunt me, you can possess me, you can kill me. You fuck with my dog, it's on. Apparently, a light fixture was dropped onto Shannon, almost killing her, as well as her being thrown down the stairs. Now, I'm not sure how old the twins were at this point. However, they were born after the activity was already beginning. So they were young at this point. She could have been a toddler being thrown down the fucking stairs, allegedly. And it wasn't just limited to their house, allegedly. Neighbors apparently saw things happening. They saw people running through the house. They saw lights flickering. They heard the screams even when the family wasn't home. Some even claimed to begin feeling a malevolent presence just seeping into their home. The Smurls sought help from their local church, obviously, but because they would have to go all the way up to the Vatican for any sort of approval for an exorcism, they kind of turned them away and said, we can't help you. And that's when they contacted the Warrens, who were much more willing to help. Ed and Lorraine interviewed the family, trying to determine any, lifestyle choices that may have contributed to demonic activity like this. Were they Satanists? Did they practice witchcraft? All of the Catholic stuff. But the Smurls said, no, we're devout Catholics. And Ed told them that them being good Catholics is probably what caused this, because it probably pissed off the demon in the house, which, to me, it sounds the same as like someone choosing abstinence to avoid pregnancy and then immaculate conception happening. Like, what's the point of the abstinence then? What's the point of being a good Catholic or Christian if you're still gonna get demons? The demon was even less thrilled with the Warrens entering the picture, upping the activity even more, if you can even believe that's possible. Now, trigger warning, I am going to talk about a sensitive subject, but Jack claimed that he was sexually assaulted by the demon, or at least a demon. He said that a succubus, this creature that had the body of a young woman but was scaly and then had the face of an old woman covered in sores and red eyes, had sexually assaulted him. And he wasn't the only victim of this in the family. Janet also was apparently assaulted in this way on many occasions, and it even attempted to assault their daughter Dawn. Now, while not in that manner, Ed was also attacked. He was apparently lifted up and choked, and then he came down with a mysterious illness that took a while to recover from. Janet continued to beg the church for any sort of help, and one day, she opened the door to this man named Father O'Leary, who said that he would be able to help her. And they talked, he left, and then she told Ed about this, and they somehow determined that Father O'Leary never existed. And the Warrens said that this demon may be so powerful that it manifested as this Father O'Leary just to fuck with the family even more. The church still refused to send an exorcist or even to investigate the house, which seems strange because other cases that we've talked about, there seems to be less happening, and they approved more readily. So the Warrens brought in a bootleg exorcist. That's not totally accurate, but he was a former priest who had left the Catholic Church but still was trained to do exorcisms. He attempted an exorcism on the house, and it didn't go well, as you can probably imagine. Things devolved even more. Now the family was being covered in bruises and cuts. Attacks continued. It was just pure chaos in the house. Shannon became sick with some sort of mysterious illness that almost killed her. Why is it targeting Shannon? Just somebody save Shannon. The Smurls decided to go to the media, hoping that it would pressure the Vatican to actually act. However, this kind of bit them in the ass because then their home became a tourist attraction and just a general media circus. On top of apparently being tormented within their homes, when they left, they were bombarded with paparazzi, reporters, people just randomly asking about what was going on. Another exorcism was performed by the bootleg exorcist and the Warrens, and during this time, the family went into the mountains to go camping. The demon apparently followed them there. The demon also tormented Jack at work. They could not get any peace. Eventually, the Warrens and the bootleg exorcist decided to get a bunch of priests together for a mass exorcism. They went room to room, they performed the rites, flicked holy water, all of that, and it seemed to work for a while. Until Christmas of 1986, when Jack said that he was once again approached by the shadow thing that had originally approached Janet, and that it tried to possess him. However, he prayed and held up his rosary, and eventually the thing dissipated, but all of the activity came back. They moved to another town hoping to escape. However, as we had already seen with them going camping and it following them, the activity continued. But luckily, this time the Vatican finally stepped in and said, okay, we're going to help you. They sent an official exorcist, and it actually worked, and the family was finally at peace. So, moral of the story, don't use Temu exorcists. So, what really happened in this case? Many speculate that this entire story was a plot devised by the family and the Warrens to sell a book called The Haunting that came out not long after the family moved. And I gotta say, that's one hell of a marketing scheme, but also, that's also what the Warrens had been accused of doing every single other investigation. So I feel like that would get old after a while. But I mean, it still worked for them. So I guess as long as nobody can prove that that's what it was, it's a pretty smart strategy. Professor Paul Kurtz of the University at Buffalo was especially skeptical of the family, but he offered to put them up in a hotel for a week, pay for psychiatric evaluations for the entire family while he investigated their house to collect his own evidence. You'd think that they would want this, not only to get away from the home for a while, but the psychiatric evaluations would prove that there's nothing going on and therefore eliminate that from the list of things that are not demonic possession. But the family declined his offer, saying that he had already made a decision on what he believed. He also pointed out the lack of police reports, despite Janet saying several times that she had called the police over the years when things got especially bad, but again, there was no record of this happening. He also pointed out that they had spoken to publishing and media companies during their ordeal, when you think if they're experiencing this horrific stuff, selling their story would probably be on the back burner, at least if it's even in their mind at all. Ed also had claimed to reporters that he had video and audio recordings of activity going on within the house, naming specifically a video where he caught the shadow figure materializing on camera. Though he said to some reporters that he had sent the video and audio recordings off to a TV company that was going to do some sort of documentary on the whole thing, but that never happened. but he told others that the tapes were in the possession of the Catholic Church. Though, when asking church officials if they had indeed received these materials from Ed Warren, they didn't know what they were talking about. And speaking more broadly about the Warrens and their cases, they claimed to have all sorts of evidence from all of these investigations. None of it was ever released and none of it was ever leaked. Them being such devout Catholics and wanting people to understand the importance of religion in order to prevent this type of thing from happening, you'd think they'd want to show proof of their work. Again, there were also a lot of people that were just skeptical of them in general, so why not release your evidence if you have it? But that is all I have for you tonight. It is getting kind of late and I want to edit this so I can get some sleep tonight. But thank you all so much for watching. I love you guys so much, and thank you for all of the love and support during the Spooktober and during me trying to get these videos out to you. I really appreciate you guys. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think there's any truth to this case, or do you think it's another case of maybe the Warrens just taking a story and blowing it out of proportion in order to get some money out of it? Also, because Spooktober is over, I'm not going to be covering any more of the Warrens cases, at least not for a while. I'm not against it in the future, but I want to take a break from it. But let me know down below what sorts of stuff you guys are interested in seeing. I'm excited to get back to my Missing 411 series. I feel like there's a lot to do with that. And I've also been thinking of maybe redoing some of my older videos since they're not the best quality. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you'll be notified anytime I upload. I'm not going to be doing my favorite comment from last video just because it's getting late and I really want to start editing this. But thank you all so much for watching. Happy Halloween. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.